This episode is brought to you by Pinnacle Pathways. I'm Arya.
And I'm Yuvam, and we're the founders of Pinnacle Pathways, a youth led initiative built to help teenagers and young professionals navigate their way through the ever evolving corporate landscape.
At Pinnacle Pathways, our mission is to bridge the gap between education and industry. We aim to equip students with the real world skills, insights, and exposure they need to thrive not just academically but professionally.
Through interviews with industry leaders, hands on learning opportunities, and personalized guidance, we're building a platform where youth are not just participants but leaders of tomorrow's workforce.
We believe in the power of meaningful conversations, and that's exactly what we bring you through this podcast. So, whether you're a student, an aspiring entrepreneur, or just curious about how industries really work, this is your space.
Let's dive into today's episode and get ready to uncover insights that could shape the future of your career and mindset.
Good morning. Pinnacle Pathways is a youth led organization dedicated to equipping teenagers with the grit, confidence, and essential skills needed to thrive in any corporate environment. Through expert led conversations, hands on workshops, and actionable guidance, we demystify corporate structures, build leadership and communication skills, and foster critical thinking. Our mission is to empower you to craft a standout professional profile, understanding organizational hierarchies, and maintain a balanced work ethic as you climb toward your career goals. Today's guest is Rizz Kaktikar. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you. He is an architect, educator, and entrepreneur whose work spans high rise towards in towers in Dubai to running his own design practice in India. Rizz combines creative vision with strategic insight, mentoring aspiring designers and forging partnerships that push industry boundaries. He is here to share practical lessons on charting a successful career path, building resilience, and leading with purpose.
Thank you so much, Adithya, for that lovely conversation, lovely introduction. And I'm looking forward to have a fun conversation with you guys.
Yes, sir. Moving on to the questions.
Perfect.
Sir, can you share the moment when you first realized architecture was more than just a profession and how that realization inspired you to launch your own design practice?
So, architecture for me was a very passion driven decision. So, when I was a 12th grade kid and I was in your shoes and I wanted to pick a career, as to what I want to do. Uh, and what really kind of checked all the boxes for me was I wanted to do something that impacts lives of people. Now what that means is I could make anything. I always thought I could also be an engineer. I wanted to make product that people use in their day-to-day life. That's where my thought began from. Like I wanted to be involved in everyone's lives. I don't know if that sounds very nosy, but that's what I wanted to do. And what is a better way? You create someone's house. They're going to live in it. They're going to fight in it. They just going to have all their experiences around it. And I love that I could contribute or be the biggest part of it. So what that means is if I go wrong, people are going to have a bad time. And if I if I'm good at what I do, people are going to love where they live. And I just loved being so impactful, and hence I kind of chose that profession. Obviously, I knew it entailed a lot of hard work, but that's what kind of drove me to choose architecture as a profession. So it started as a passion, and then when I realized that yeah, this could actually be a profession, is when I also saw that I could put a value on your work. Now that could again sound, everyone out here wants to make big money,
Hmm.
but I realized, let's say I'm designing a house, architecture, or you can say real estate as an industry, impacts so many other ancillary industries. Now, what I mean is just imagine this: there's a house being built. Let's say I'm designing the house, but there's building material that's getting procured. So that's one industry I'm catering to, building materials. Then there's logistics, because that material is going to come on site. There's logistics that's also kind of depending on our industry. After that, there are your foremen and your workers on site that are going to actually make what you're doing. It's also that industry that's impacted, and at the end of it, the end user is going to use this space. So I realize a lot of value behind what you do, in terms of you are involved in making a lot of homes. Now, what I mean is, I'm making the homes of the workers, the building materials, the suppliers, the logistics, the people who are going to live. And I love that kind of impact. And at that time, when I was a kid, I couldn't find anything else that was that impactful. So, yeah, that's how I realized architecture is a thing for me, and why it's more than a profession and something that I want to do for the rest of my life.
So impact is something that drive you to
Yes, exactly.
choose this profession. Yes, but we all have drives and we have that as a foundation. But as we move forward, we need a few core skills that we have to develop. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, which core skills, like technical, creative, or interpersonal, did you focus on developing first? And what practical steps did you take to strengthen them? And how can teenagers today begin building these skills today?
So I'm going to answer your second part first. So, how can teenagers build the skills that are necessary to, let's say, be an architect, or I would say be a designer per se. So, first task is to identify what are these skills that you need, right? And these skills vary from person to person. Now, a generic answer would be, oh, you need to be good at drawing, or you need to understand, what perspective is, you need to understand the human scale. But I hope you guys know all of that. But what you need, how I look at it is, the biggest thing one needs to learn is, like, I loved how I've coined it. It's called the art of figuring it out. Now, what that means is that no one's going to hold your hands and walk the path with you. You're going to be thrown in a fire, and there's going to be an extinguisher thrown in some other room, and you're going to be asked to put out all the fires. The task A is to know where the extinguisher is. Task B is to know how to use an extinguisher, okay, while not getting burnt. So this metaphor applies to all professions, to be very honest. So what that means is that, now cutting at short, I think the first step, a teenager who's looking to kind of choose architecture or choose his profession, is to find a mentor, is to find a guru. You need to be very greedy at that, because whoever your mentor, guru, friend, anyone who you look up to, is going to shape your way of life, or your way, how you're going to practice your profession. And there is no right or wrong. Okay, there are people who do the same professions in 10 different ways of, so there's a thing, for example, a Sachin Tendulkar plays cricket in a different way than what a Dhoni plays. Now you can't say A is better than B. It's just two different things. So you need to find your mentor, choose wisely, choose people whose personality is attractive. That's what I did. My eyes were wide open, I was very greedy, and I was looking for a person whose personality inspires me. Now, when his personality inspires me, that means his way of work inspires me, how he treats people inspires me, how he does his work inspires me. And then I see, oh, so now this A person, his primary tool is he wants to sketch everywhere and everything. So that's what I want to do. There are architects who work in different ways, who have some other different skills, who are very good salespeople. They're not great designers, but they know how to sell their designs. And if that's what attracts me as a personality, that's what I'm going to learn first. So I did that kind of get a ballpark answer to your question.
Definitely that.
Yeah. So,
So
find a mentor, see what you like in him, and then try to figure out what you want to learn from those things that you've identified. And generic things would be, yes, once you know you want to do architecture, I would say first study architecture, try to read buildings, see how people use spaces, see how you and I are using this room. Can this be better in any way? When you start thinking in those ways, other things like drawing and all that, that's textbook, that's theoretical, that will happen, that you will do, that you have to do. That's all right, that you can figure out. But all these other ways, basically your mindset is, I think, the first thing you need to get into. So that's something that people your age should develop first.
okay, so I think the art of figuring out is something.
The art of figuring, I love how that sounds, but yeah,
Even I love how that sounds. But as you said, there is a problem that we often are thrown into, like this. As you said, There are different scenarios that we go through, challenges that we face. That's my next question towards you. Like, can you describe a significant challenge that you faced very early in your career and how you overcome it and how did that shape your problem solving skills?
Yeah. So when I started my career, I worked with a developer for probably a year, and after that, I chose to start my own design studio. This is back in India. So when I did that, I was still relatively a newbie. My skills were not yet polished. I was very passionate about architecture. I think I was a good architect. I was a good designer, but I lacked a lot of professional skills. Now, when there is a gap between your skills, and when I say professional skills, is how you're going to deliver those skills, how you're going to cater to clients, how you're going to deal. So that friction that is caused leads to a lot of stress. And at an early age, not knowing how to handle it can be disastrous. So what happened with me was I kind of crumbled under that. I thought it was too much. I realized, oh, I don't want to deal with so many people. I was what, 25, and I was dealing with people from all over the country who were, I was doing 15 projects, so I did not know, and I was working alone. So I kind of got overwhelmed with all the logistics and how to figure how to talk to so many people and all of that, because I didn't have any system in place. So realization was, yeah, I need to learn those things. But when I learned how to handle the stress was, someone very wisely told me, my problem was that every day there is a new problem. Every day there is something going wrong on site. Every day there is something going wrong in the designs. Client did not like my design. There are changes, and it irritated me. It irritated me so much that why are there new problems every day? Like, you finish a problem and there's a new one the next day. But someone told me this. This is your job. What if, like, imagine a fireman. A fireman complaining that there are fires every day. That's your job. Your job is to put out fires. You can't be crying about fires being there. That's your job. So my job is solving the problems. So when I kind of adopted that attitude, that yes, there's going to be a new fire every day, and I need to figure it out. I need to put out those fires every day. So there are going to be new problems every day, and you have to deal with them. That is what your job entails. And that just kind of pulled the weight off my back. Like, I just knew that things are going to go wrong and you have to solve it. So stress was a big problem, and then learning how to handle that stress and address it was the solution to that. Where things became overwhelmed as an early, when you're going to, you're going to be, college is not going to teach you everything. College is going to teach you how to design, but how to execute, how to talk to people, how to handle cranky clients. College is not going to teach you that. That you're going to learn when you deal with the cranky client. So yeah, that's that.
Like overcoming your own stress or like problems in life itself is an achievement.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next question. What accomplishments and experiences helped you to stand out to clients and collaborators, and how can young professionals showcase their strengths effectively?
Yeah. So when I graduated, it was considered, I studied in India. So when I graduated in India, architecture was not considered as the most high paying jobs. So what a lot of my classmates had accepted, that, oh, A, we're not going to get jobs. B, if we get a job, it's not going to be a high paying. But no one tried to address the issue. I did not face that issue. I graduated, and I think I was very lucky that I got a very good job per se. I also got very good projects, and I was paid fairly enough for it. But the reason for that was, now my resume, or if you saw my resume, when I graduated, I already had 10 internships on it. So what, as a practice, I did was, because I was so passionate about architecture and I was so greedy to find my mentor, I kept doing internships every summer break I got. As a matter of fact, I did my first internship at a builder's office before I joined into architecture school and after my 12th grade. So I did my first, it was not core architecture because I didn't know anything. I was just working in a builder's office as an aide. I was just printing drawings, making sure the presentations are in place, making sure the dates are correct on all the presentations. But point being, I always put, so at the end of 10 semesters and 5 years, that what architecture bachelor's is, I already had internships for every summer break that I did. So I did I was all over the place. One semester I did internship with an interior designer, the other I would do with someone who designed mosques in India, the other I would do with someone who does warehouses, the other break I did an internship with someone who just kept me on site and made sure, I was supervising on sites. So I was one internship I did, I was just doing material procurement. I used to go on my bike to the market and source materials. So I've done it all. And and I just knew that this is all just adding up. And when I applied for an internship, though my portfolio was, let's say, 3 pages, my CV was already 2 pages. It had intern. And when someone sees that they have, they're not expecting you to be a great architect. No one's going to expect you to be a great architect on day one when you're out of college. But when they see that you've done so many interns, they know that you dealt with so many people. So you know how to get your way, you know how to communicate, you know how to tackle problems. So that's what set me apart from where people had one internship. There's one internship that's compulsory when you're doing architecture. That's like your professional practice that usually everyone does in their final year for around 6 months. I had already done like 10. I actually removed two or three because I wanted to limit my CV to 2 pages. So I skipped two or three earlier ones. But that really set me apart. Apart from that, I also had done a few freelance gigs. Back when I was studying architecture, I designed someone's kitchen. I designed a tree house in my village that I constructed on my own. So I documented all of these things. So in today's age, I think you document every single thing that you do, because everything you document adds on to your profile, and people are going to look into it. You can just Google your name and you know what I did 10 years ago, on LinkedIn, Instagram, everything. You document everything. You never know who's going to be reading what. It also means you choose what you're doing very wisely. Yeah, I hope that also
So internships did play a huge role in
a
it.
huge role.
A
For
huge
me,
role.
it did, yeah.
That is another problem that most teenagers face. They're not able to choose like what is right, which internship would lead me to the place I want to get. Which is why my next question is about which internships or side projects provided you the greatest learning ROI, and how can aspiring professionals identify and secure high impact opportunities?
Okay, so there is this huge dilemma that a lot of students, go through, which even you guys will go through. Is let's say you and I are in the same class, and you get an internship at A studio, and I get an internship at B studio. I'm going to talk in terms of architecture, but you can just extrapolate it to anything. And let's say you are getting to work on a design of a hotel, let's say, and I get to go on site of there's a villa being constructed, and I am getting to go at a site. So I get this huge inferiority oh my god, Aditya is working on a hotel, and Aditya goes to think, oh no, he's going on site and I'm just stuck in office. So you need to get out of this. Internships are what, 6 months, 3 months, probably even a month. Some of them are going to be a month. You're not going to learn everything. And you know there is no wrong or right internship, and you have to be open. Okay, no one's going to, you know as long as you're not just wasting your time. I've also done an internship where they were wasting my time. I walked out day 3, I was out of there. But you need to, in any room that you're in, there's going to be people who are going to be learning from. So you need to be that greedy to find, what am I going to learn from Aditya today. That's what how I'm going to look at you. So you need to be that at your early days, and hence, and then not compare to what other people are doing. Now if you ask me what was my learning from my internship, and what was my, like my checkpoint internship that I did. I worked for a when in back in Pune. I worked for a design studio called DWP that had their office in Pune, Dubai, and London. And I was working on projects in London. And back then, as a school kid in Pune, I was like, oh my god, I'm working on a project in London. So I used to brag about it. But that also meant I got to know how people, how to work. People are working on different time zones. There are different work cultures in different countries. So that also kind of got me all excited, because that's how I knew that I want to be a more of a global architect. I want to work throughout the world, because just talking to people from different culture, you learn more. You learn their ways of work, you teach them your ways of work, and it's a more collaborative thing. So I think that internship was something that I really learned from. And apart from that, I still consider architect Hardeep, who's also my professor in college, and I call him my mentor. He doesn't like being called that, but I worked with him. He was my professor in college, and one day I was really frustrated. I just called him like, "Sir, I want to meet you." He's like, "Come home." I said, "Sir, I'm frustrated. I want to work with you." And from then till 2 years after that, I was working with him throughout, and he taught me most of the things I know today. And he was also the one who kind of recommended me to kind of move to Dubai and explore more things. So yeah, so these two things. The second thing, because I found a great mentor. The first, because I could work collaboratively with a lot of people. So those are the two things.
So you talked about how a great mentor really helped you succeed and helped you like move on. So I would like to know more about your mentor and how he guided you, because it seems like a
Yeah.
very important part that everyone should know
Yeah.
about.
So as I told you, uh, your mentor, you don't just call him. You don't just call someone a mentor because he's good at what he does. Someone could be a great uh, architect, but not the best teacher. And when I say a good teacher, doesn't mean he's going to just teach you architecture. He's going to teach you a way of life that could be dealing with people. No, I'm always talking about kind of dealing with people and not about architecture. You might notice, because these skills kind of shape this. The theoretical part of how to do architecture and what is good architecture and what is bad architecture, and uh, what kind of, that's something that also we can get into. But because we're at that point where we want to choose what we want to do, I think these things really shape that. So my mentor, or you could say my professor, I'll give you an example how he played a good role at what he did for me. So when I was studying architecture, I was very sure, I was very confident that I wanted to work in the interior retail space, wherein I wanted to design and execute restaurants and hotels and commercial offices and all of that. And my justification was, a, it's very glamorous work, b, it's a lot of good money. That's what I wanted to do. And he gave me a very good, because that's what even he did a lot of retail architecture, retail interior work. That's what I learned with him. But he gave me this very good advice where he said that, Riz, I am doing this today because I like doing this. Tomorrow, if I get bored of doing retail interior design, I can do 10 other things because I know 10 other things. Do you know 10 other things? I said, no, this is all I know. This is all you've taught me. And he said, yeah, exactly. So go out, find your next mentor. Okay, learn more. And then maybe 5 years down the line, you say, I still want to do retail interior. But because an architect and a designer, no, we are very finicky about our work. If you're not liking what we're doing, we just cannot work. So he said, if after working for 5 years in retail interior, you want to, let's say, design a skyscraper, but you don't know how to, that's not a very good space to be in. Then you're stuck with doing what you want to do. And that really hit me. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to Dubai. So, so that's what I did. I came here and I found my next mentor, worked on other projects. And then, as you said, if I still, after 5 years, I get bored, I can go to India or out here, do retail interior architecture, interior design, execute, and then maybe design a skyscraper one off day. It's what I want to do because that's how I've done. Like, it's how you will do your thing. So that advice, I think, really shaped my career, or just the way I look at life, or just the way I want to lead my life. So you can see it was a small, I think a half an hour conversation. I don't think anything he remembers, but that just left such a deep impact at me. So, so subtle things like this will really, your mentor will really guide you on. So yeah, that's an example that I want to really.
It's an inspiring story.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's a deep touching story as well. Well, sir, leadership combines vision, empathy, and the ability to bring teams together. It's what transforms individual contributions into collective success. What leadership qualities have been most critical to your success, and how can young professionals start cultivating those traits now?
So, when I was younger, a mistake that I did was I thought I was the smartest person in the room, and I always wanted to prove that I'm the smartest person in the room. Very soon I realized that I'm in this room because the other people in this room are equally, if not more smart, if not smarter than me. So when you give someone that respect, that a what Aditya is saying holds value. Now what that means is that you listen. I listen to what you are saying. Okay. I first register this point in mind that whatever Aditya is saying has value. Okay. I don't have this notion that Aditya is, just, hey, he's not making sense. He's not smart enough. He's not wise enough. He is smart enough. That is why he's in the same room as me. Okay. First thing. Second thing, whatever he's saying is of value. I'm going to register it first. Once that is done, then I will add what I have to share. This is a very important philosophy that one needs to learn when they work, because everything is collaborative now. There's hardly anyone who works in isolation, who works alone. Okay? And you have to work collaboratively. You're going to work with n number of people together, and you have to learn how to work with a team. So this skill is very important. You asked me about leadership, right? Even if I've worked in a small team, when you're working in a small team or a big team, you need to understand that everyone in your team holds value in what they're doing. That is why they are a part of whatever you are doing. So giving everyone that respect and listening to what they say or whatever they have to offer, and then maybe superseding it with your opinions and your point of views. What is the worst that you're going to have to do? What's going to happen? You're going to ideate, right? Ideation is a very strong method of coming on anything, any outcome. So we do this thing where on day one we just put all ideas on paper. So it will be all the crappy ideas and all the best ideas, but everyone puts their ideas on the table and every idea gets looked at. But that collaborative thing makes everyone feel ownership of the work, because when Aditya feels that, what I'm doing, this is my work, is when he's going to give his best. If I tell Aditya, what, this is not your project, this is my project, you're just working for me, he's not going to do his best. So letting everyone have a piece of the cake is one thing, and then letting everyone top the icing on the cake, I don't know how to say it, letting everyone contribute, and and letting everyone know that you're a part of a team which has a collaborative ownership or whatever. That's a very important skill, I think. I learned a little later, but yeah.
Yes, sir, as you said, collaboration fuels innovation by leveraging diverse strengths. Next, let's examine like how to foster this teamwork. How big of a role did communication play? Like, how did you learn how to communicate with the team members and how to get them feel that, as you said, this is my project as well?
Yeah. So um I had this notion that when I become an architect, I will, sketch a building and that's gonna be made the next day. But architecture is a very collaborative industry. You're working with architects, engineers, contractors. Any any building, I think, has more than 100, if no, hundreds, if not thousands, people working on it. So everyone's contributing, and everyone has their own expertise. So, you define whose expertise is what. Even if there are two architects on the table, they already know, because they're in a team. They know that you are good at, let's say, concept design, and you're good at designing how the building will look from far, and I'm good at designing how the building will look from inside, or how the rooms are, how the layouts are, all of that. So when you understand each other's skills, okay, when you go into a workspace and there's an induction, when you're introduced to your team members, what is the purpose of that? Is just not plain icebreakers. It's for also understanding that whose role is what and who's good at what. Okay. So it could be that, oh, Riz is a good architect, he's good at project management, he's good at this, he's an architect, he's an engineer who's a very good structural engineer. And you define those roles, and you don't overstep. You let everyone contribute, you let everyone do whatever they are good at. Now that also means that finding the best people. Okay, if you think they're not as par as skilled as you need a new person in your team. So that is where the ruthless side comes. And how do you foster team building is, I think your my earlier answer kind of answers this as well. Letting, and how do you let people feel ownership is, you let them contribute. You know what they're saying holds value. Let's say if someone gives you a crappy idea, you don't disregard it on day one. You look at it, and we have this philosophy in architecture: no design is a bad design. It's only a design which is not worked on enough. So any crappy design, if you work on it enough, will be an all right design, if not a great design. So you let everyone contribute, you give it time. And we have this process wherein we look at a design, we work on it, and then after a couple of days we scrap it and we start with something new. And then we try this for 5 days, and what, the earlier one was better, let's just go back to that. So because we are so open to this process, is why everyone feels that yes, they can contribute. At the same time, we have this culture in, this is inculcated in architecture school, of peer review, wherein Adithya, before he shows his design to let's say his client, or let's say his professors in college, will kind of show his design to me. And my job is not to tell, oh, Adithya, you've done a great job, or it looks very pretty. My job is to find the mistakes in Adithya's job, and Adithya's come to me for that, because I'm his friend. I'm going to tell him on day one, what, Adithya, this is very crappy, this is not that great, try something else. So peer review, what that means is that we take other people's comment very seriously. So because the nature of the industry is so collaborative, so working in a team is a must. So everyone really develops it very easily. Unless you're very finicky and you want to work alone, then either you're a great architect or a very bad architect. But for for a generalized case, you have to be very collaborative. There is no other way, and that's a fact for most professions, I think.
Yeah, so the constructive conflict often leads to stronger solutions when managed effectively. Now let's explore conflict resolution strategies. So when a disagreement arises in a high pressure setting, what methods ensure constructive outcomes and preserve team morale?
Yeah, I think sleeping on it. There is this thing that I like to do: never take a decision when you are not at ease. When I feel that, when I feel, my blood pressure is boiling, or when I start panicking, or when I think, oh, something is going wrong, that day I will not take any decision. You wait, you sleep on it, and you let your expertise kind of, let you think. And when you just give things time, you figure it out. Now, when you work in a team, and we talk about team building and collaborative work, that also means that there's going to be a lot of friction. It's a part and parcel of it. Aditya and I, you lock us in a room for 10 days, we're going to end up biting each other. Okay, it's not going to be a very rosy situation, and that is part of it. So you, in that case, you always have to figure out who's the adult in the room, in terms of uh, sometimes some people say things, do things in agitation, and then you need to forgive and move past it, not hold a grudge against people. And then let's say, then if it's a more of a technical issue, there are two design options and which design is better. In this case, it's always a peer review. You talk to people, you talk to 10 other people, you discuss, ideate, you talk to 5 more architects in your team, you share it, you take comments, you implement them. And it's never a case that, it always in the end becomes an amalgamation of an output. The whole idea of peer review, working with a team, when I said, you review each other's work, helps you resolve these conflicts. And this will happen, this is part and parcel of the work. When I design something, I hold it very dear to my heart. And if someone calls it a crappy design, I get super offended, but I'm going to go back home and make it a better design and come next day. So you need to be open to criticism. I think that could be a short answer. Be very open to criticism, and be also open to criticize, because that is part of your work. You have to criticize other people's work who come to you for criticism, by the way. You can't just go around calling people's work crappy. So you have to criticize your team's work, get criticism on your work, and move past it. And and the goal should always be produce the best work possible. If that is your end goal, that I want to produce, let's say if you're designing a villa and I want to make the best villa ever made, if just that is your end goal, nothing else really matters. You won't mind people fighting over it, which is fine. I think it's a part of work. It's not, there's no going over it, but you have to handle it with patience and be very resilient with understanding what your end goal is.
Well, architecture and design is a field where it requires so much innovation, so much creativity. Innovation thrives on curiosity and experimentation,
Yeah.
transforming constraints into creative breakthroughs. Embracing this mindset unlocks so many new possibilities. So, how do you define innovation in your work? And what daily practices help you stay curious and open to new creative problem solving?
So a funny story would be, when it's happened so many times that we've designed something which we think is a breakthrough. We're so proud of it. What is it never done before? And we kind of put it on paper and we go to sleep and we get up in the morning and there's a huge billboard on Sheikh Zayed Road. So and you're like, oh my god, this is what I really wanted to do. No, but what I mean by that is you need to, how you will innovate if you've gone through all the work that's being produced, which means study everything possible. When you study architecture, one of the first subjects that you have is history of architecture. When you study all the history of how architecture evolved over the years. Now, what is the reason for that? It's not just another credit on your score, but it's all for you to understand how architecture evolved, and then you understand, okay, this is all done. What's the next new thing, and why would you want to do something new? And if you're doing something, is that actually new? And then being in touch with the current projects, current works of all master architects. So I think just studying all out, knowing what is happening, okay, being in touch with the latest technologies, I think that is something that is very essential. For example, AI is in all fire right now. We as architects are now kind of trying to understand how to use AI as a system of design. There are obviously image generations and all that, but that's very rudimentary or very basic. That doesn't really add value to architecture. It just looks pretty on as an image. But how do we use AI to kind of accentuate the work that we are producing? What are the newer materials that are available? So we're constantly studying all of that. We're all, globally everyone's talking about sustainability. How is we as architects, this happened very recently. I kind of put on paper on all the number of projects that I worked on, and that came to around 290,000 square meters. And I was like, oh, I've contributed 290,000 square meters, and I got a reply that, can you imagine the amount of carbon footprint that you're responsible for? And I was like, oh my god, I never thought of it that way. But that's something that we should consider. Hence, we as architects are looking at what are the newer things that we can do for making buildings more sustainable. And so you're constantly studying and then trying to push the envelope. Even when we design a project, we put a first draft is always what's the first thing that comes in your mind. And then we are always thinking, how can we make this slightly better, slightly better? You will not believe the project tries to get slightly better even after it is getting constructed. Even during construction, we're all just trying to push it little further. What is little, maybe we can change a material here, it'll look better. Maybe we can do some other thing, add one more material, increase the height somewhere, reduce the electricity consumption somehow. We're trying to make the building better and better as we're working on it. So that's how you just very, again, you're passionate about what you do and you keep at it.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we have to look ahead. New trends are emerging. The world is changing. AI has come to place. Looking ahead requires staying proactive and anticipating emerging trends. That forward focus keeps you prepared for tomorrow's opportunities. What emerging trends like sustainable design or digital modeling will reshape architecture and corporate roles, And how should teenagers position themselves to capitalize on these changes?
See, architecture is changing by the day. What I studied in school and what, let's say, someone who will be studying architecture in school should be way different. I'm not sure if it will be, but it should be. And if it isn't, it's a big red flag. Now, why I say that is technologies change. Now, AI is coming into play. So, for example, let's say, our seniors, okay, who had only a pen and paper as a tool of design. So they were big advocates of sketching being the only way of designing. And for the longest time, that was how their brain worked. Then the next generation came who still used sketching as a primitive tool, but we started using CAD. It is 2D drafting on a computer aided design. And for this newer generation of architects, CAD became a primary tool of design. And that, so a lot of people who used to sketch thought that, oh, architects who are going to use CAD are not going to be that exploratory, but that wasn't true. Our brains evolve. Your human mind is beautiful. You can just give us whatever and we will evolve around it. Then came the 3D revolution, where 3D design platforms came, and now AI has come. So the newer architects who are going to be coming, you kids who are going to study architecture, are going to be using AI as a design tool at a daily basis, and your daily systems are going to evolve around it. So I think AI is a must. Like, it was a thing of the future, but it's a thing of today. I would say AI is a thing of today, and you have to get onto it. Sustainable design, again, it's a must, because to be honest, we're ruining the planet, and we need to stop doing that. And if not that, just take some measures to repair. And sustainable design is something that we all should look at. Now, when you make sustainable design, a big thing is design locally, use local materials, source locally. So it's not just design, it's logistics, all of that. But that is something that people should learn. As an early architect, I would say yes. So get into AI, get into sustainable design, understand how collaborative work works, how do you deal with people. And yeah, and you let the course take its time, as in you will learn everything around the technicalities as in when you proceed in your career. You don't need to really force anything apart from the basics. You find what you like, and then you do become the best at it.
Hmm. So, small, consistent action builds major momentum over time. Finally, let's focus on immediate next steps. If listeners commit to one concrete action this week, whether starting a portfolio project, connecting with a mentor, or practicing public speaking, what would you recommend and why?
All of it. So I would say, let's break this in two answers. Answer A: if someone wants to consider, uh, should I choose architecture as a profession, I would say, I would recommend two books. Book A is called Letters to a Young Architect by architect Christopher Benninger. That book will help you understand the mindset of an architect. And second book is slightly a heavy read. Now, the second book is only if you're already an avid reader. It's called The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. That book gives you a very romanticized version of what an architect should be. A very romanticized version and a very practical version. So she gives you a spectrum, and as in practicality, an architect lies somewhere in the middle. So that book gives you a good insight on what architecture can be. So if someone you're new, I would say, kind of do that. And if not, I think start journaling, in terms of putting your ideas on paper. Whatever, when I was a student, I really wanted to make things that people use. So I would keep trying to, figure out how I can make newer things. I made a gimbal out of, I don't know, curtain hangers and stuff like that, and it wasn't that great. I can't even call it a gimbal, but yeah, it was something that I tried to do. So you try, get out and journal all of these things, document whatever you're doing, document what you're doing, and trust the process and just dive in. That's what I think.
Well, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for tuning in to Pinnacle Pathways podcast. Rizz's journey shows that success comes from blending passion with strategy, resilience with creativity, and collaboration with continuous learning. Embrace these insights, take bold steps towards your goal, and turn every challenge into an opportunity. At Pinnacle Pathways, we remain dedicated to guiding you through meaningful conversations and practice experiences. Keep pushing boundaries, stay curious, and always keep innovating, captivating, and elevating because your path to the pinnacle starts today.
And that brings us to the end of our podcast. A huge thank you to our guests for sharing such valuable insights and to all of you for tuning in.
At Pinnacle Pathways, our mission is to empower the next generation of professionals. And conversations like these are a powerful step in that direction.
This podcast is proudly produced by us, Yuvam and Arya, as part of our commitment to bridging the gap between education and the corporate world.
Today's episode sparked a new perspective, helped you to learn something, or simply made you think. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And make sure to connect with us on social media for updates, resources, and more content designed to help you thrive in the real world.
Until next time, remember to keep innovating, captivating,
and elevating your way to the pinnacle.